Tonight on the March Madness Selection Show, we've got all the insight you need to lock in that perfect bracket. Stick around because we'll even show you how to fill it out. Joining us tonight will be Crash Course World History host John Green.
Galileo and other science was genuinely revolutionary.
A seasoned world history YouTuber who has the knowledge you need when it comes to making those tough decisions.
Shakespeare knew how to navigate between high and low culture.
We've also got special guest Joe Rogan.
You just have access to them because you have paper.
Excited as ever to give some big picture analysis.
I always used to get them confused with Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay, maybe we'll edit that out of the broadcast somehow. Anyway, your Medieval March Madness bracket breakdown starts right now. Hello everyone and welcome to the Medieval March Madness Selection Show. I'm your host, Mr. Donlin, and I'm joined by the ever-popular John Green and UFC broadcaster Joe Rogan. We've got a great show for you tonight, people. There's a whopping 32 individual contenders this year battling it out in a single elimination, compare and contrast, evaluation to the death tournament to see who really made the biggest impact on European history and whose life helped to end the lame Middle Ages the most. John, we'll go to you first. Why is this time such an important one for students everywhere?
Right, so the story goes that the Renaissance saw the rebirth of European culture after the miserable Dark Ages, and that it ushered in the modern era of secularism, rationality, and individualism.
Joe, you want to weigh in?
Impossible for us to imagine that someone would be able to do that right now.
Well, that was something. Let's get right into it. The biggest thing everyone obsesses over is creating the bracket. Your prediction for how the tournament will play out from beginning to end. This is no easy task, though. Constructing your bracket will test your skills in analysis, research, evaluation, understanding, collaboration, corroboration, enthusiasm, and, well, you could use a bit of luck as well. We here at C323 Studios would love to give you all the answers, but the strength of your bracket will really come down to the homework and preparation you put in advance. And as an added twist this year, your ability to debate and defend your selections, as unlike most tournaments, this one, your voice can make the difference in how the numbers play out. Let's take a quick look at our process. Contenders will compete to earn points in a variety of important categories. There's no one single attribute, accomplishment, or event that will decide the outcome. At the start of each matchup, points will be added to each individual score, and the individual with the highest score will move on to the next round. On the points breakdown, take a look at the value of skill. More than half of the top 5 coming from the highly competitive art division. Man, there are some big favorites over there, and surely no shortage of skill.
If they have a hard drive, right, and they have a 1 terabyte hard drive, they got like 100 gigs full. They have all this space. You could fill that space, and it becomes their whole life because it's thrilling and it's exciting to learn.
Thank you, Mr. Rogan. Well said, my guy. I want to talk for a moment about the big difference between short-term impact and long-term impact. A key ingredient to understanding an individual's longevity in this tournament. Short-term impact is more than just 1 or 2 contributions to society. It's also about how it changes people's lives in a short amount of time. Who are our big leaders in this? Let's take a look. John, you want to weigh in?
This way of looking at the world would prove so important that less than 350 years after Galileo became the first person to observe the moon's cratered surface, human beings would step foot on that surface.
Not to be confused with long-term impact, though. These are people whose impacts are potentially affecting us immensely, even to this day. Our leaderboard here. I'm surprised to see so many names so low on that list. There are a few that absolutely should be ranked considerably higher.
Women were among the patrons of the arts. Isabella d'Este sponsored musical events and loved Petrarch's poems so much she had music composed for them.
I hear you. There are many names that we might be underselling, as always. A few sleeper picks, no doubt. The first name that comes to mind for me is Filippo Brunelleschi. known for completing the impossible dome on Florence Cathedral. What a masterpiece that is, combining a multitude of skills: engineering, physics, ingenuity, not to mention courage. An unconventional mind could be a great candidate in my book for a late run. But he's got some tough competition in that technology division. Joe, what do you think of that group?
With technology, as it gets more and more advanced, we will reach some sort of some innovation or some sort of an invention.
Some big underdogs in this category. Looking at Gutenberg, the inventor of the printing press.
Without the intellect to craft and engineer and manifest these creations, you just have access to them because you have paper.
Oh, I agree. I think the experts really missed the mark on how big of a contributor he is. Maybe, he's no Copernicus, but John, what's your take on how Copernicus is going to do?
The Catholic Church's reaction to this was negative. The Italian monk Giordano Bruno, for instance, was burned at the stake in 1600 for teaching Copernicus's heliocentric findings.
Well, that's a good point. Clearly the stakes are high this year. So, who do you think is going to make a run at the Final Four here? All right, John, why do you think Galileo?
Galileo and other scientists used experimentation and mathematical calculation to confirm or refute hypotheses. And that scientific method was genuinely revolutionary.
Let's use that as a way to segue over to the philosophy division. And here are our top-ranking individuals presented by Zoom. Without you, Zoom, I don't know where we'd be. What do you think of some of these choices, John? We've got some revolutionary thinkers like Erasmus and Machiavelli.
Machiavelli took a so-called realist view of politics. He focused on how a prince could retain power and maintain order, and he was much more interested in what was effective than what was, noble. Machiavelli was very different from Erasmus.
All right, here's how they both match up. Looking strong in the progress category. Certainly breaking some barriers out here, but both for very different reasons. One, maybe even pretty controversial, to say the least. I gotta say, I don't know if they have what it takes to defeat some of the big patrons of the day.
Bankers also financed artists needing funds to complete their works, including Botticelli and Michelangelo, and city governments themselves were also important patrons of the Renaissance, while individual leaders often spent as much as 6% of their personal income on the arts.
I get that, but why?
Why? Well, largely for the same reasons that rich people fund art and buildings today. For status, for recognition.
I will admit, I'm shocked Savonarola has such a good season leading up to this. The guy's radical fundamentals are all flawed here. And he's a favorite among some? Get out of here with that. I'm planning on him being a massive first-round flop. But, John, you like William Shakespeare for your Final Four, possibly even champion spot.
Shakespeare knew how to navigate between high and low culture. He knew how to amuse and entertain us while also grappling with big questions about honor and fate and duty and human frailty.
To put that in a book.
And the idea that something can be both fun and smart still resonates today.
Yeah, literally.
How about we take a look at the potential matchups here and show you where the experts believe the points are falling. A pretty clear indicator for some of the strengths and weaknesses in this division, no doubt. All right, it's time to talk about our rewards system. As always, having the best bracket isn't just about having the highest percentage of correct predictions or just choosing the champion. What usually it comes down to is the points awarded for each successful selection. So nobody go burning those brackets after just a few days, people. I've seen some great comebacks thanks to a few well thought out, risky maneuvers. The most difficult section to make decisions on has got to be the Explorers group. Economically speaking, what the heck is the most important thing to know about this one, John?
When we talk about explorers and exploring, we often conjure up images of intrepid groups wearing hats trekking through empty lands in search of hidden treasures.
But that obviously isn't true. Yeah, I'm thinking these people are heavily going to favor Columbus here. To me, it makes sense why, but they might be missing out on some incredibly intriguing surprises and upsets. Columbus looks good for round 1, but I don't really see him surviving the debates in later rounds of this tournament. I don't know. Prove me wrong. Anyone? Nobody? No? No one wants to weigh in? All right, moving on. Looking at art now, a divisive challenge to see who is the true avant-garde of the era. And with names like these, sheesh, it could be anybody. Highlighting Donatello. He's an average rank right now, but a fiery contender.
With Michelangelo, I always used to get them confused with Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was...
Joe, we're talking about Donatello. Anyway, moving on. Lots of similarities in strengths and weaknesses compared to Artemis. Their similarities really show when you compare them. This is within just a few points. It absolutely will come down to some luck, and more directly, the debates to come. It'll be exciting stuff to watch, no doubt. I think it's the devotion to reviving the art style of the Greeks and Romans, using the theme of humanism, that will really be the winning strategy this year. A look now at our top-ranking individual going into this thing. I mean, guys, what else is there to say about a mind like Leonardo da Vinci? Are there any weaknesses that can slow this powerhouse down?
That crazy is genius work, right? So what is it about him that allows him to be so prolific as an artist? You ever notice how prolific he is?
That's a very good point. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. In many ways, the champion of this tournament will inspire progress, and maybe art doesn't reach that many people in the grand scheme of things. An excellent breakdown year after year. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. All right, everyone, it's time to dive deeply into those brackets. Let's break it down in a slightly different way. The way the bracket works is you will be choosing the outcome of all of the tournament matchups. Every compare and contrast challenge from the beginning of round 1 all the way to the championship grand finale. Remember that the ranks and overall ratings never determine a clear winner. There will always be individuals whose impact on history has been potentially exaggerated, or folks who sadly get overlooked. You may also want to choose the areas or names that you might be passionate about as well. You never know what could shape the end results. Think critically, explore the database you have available to you, as though it's potentially a cheat sheet, and above all, have fun. I will see you all in class.